I remember the exact moment everything changed. It was a Tuesday night in February. We were playing the Celtics at home, and the arena was packed. 20,000 people wearing our colors, chanting my name during warm-ups, holding signs with my number. I'd been averaging 28 points, 7 assists, and leading the team to a playoff push. 3 straight All-Star selections, 2 endorsement deals that made more money than most players see in their entire careers. I was the face of this franchise, and everyone knew it. Then Coach Williams pulled me aside 20 minutes before tip-off. "You're not starting tonight," he said, not meeting my eyes. I laughed. I actually laughed, because I thought he was messing with me. We did that sometimes, the kind of jokes you make when you've been through wars together. But his face stayed stone cold, and my smile died. "What are you talking about?" "Front office decision. You're sitting tonight. Maybe a few more games. They'll explain everything tomorrow." The locker room went silent. Every guy on that team knew what I meant to our success. Marcus, my best friend since we came into the league together, stood up from his locker. "Coach, you can't be serious." "It's not my call," Coach said and walked away. I stood there in my uniform, the number 23 stitched across my chest, feeling like someone had just ripped my heart out and stomped on it in front of everyone I cared about. The guys didn't know what to say. Some looked angry, some looked confused, but most just looked down because they understood something I was just beginning to realize. In this business, loyalty only goes one way. I sat on that bench for 48 minutes and watched us lose by 15. Every time the crowd chanted my name, begging Coach to put me in, I felt a piece of my identity crack and fall away. This wasn't just basketball. This was my entire life. Everything I'd built since I was 8 years old, shooting on a rusted hoop in my mom's driveway. After the game, I sat in the empty locker room until the cleaning crew started vacuuming. My phone buzzed constantly. Messages from reporters, teammates, fans demanding answers. But I had none to give. I drove home in silence, the city lights blurring past my windshield. My penthouse apartment felt hollow when I walked in. Rachel was waiting on the couch, still awake at 1 a.m, her face tight with worry. "Baby, what happened?" she asked, standing up. "Twitter is going crazy. They're saying you got benched." "They benched me," I said, my voice flat. "No warning, no explanation. Just told me I'm sitting." She wrapped her arms around me, and I let myself lean into her. Rachel had been with me since college, before the money, before the fame. She knew the real me, the kid from Cleveland who used to practice free throws until his hands bled because he was terrified of letting his mom down. "There has to be a reason," she whispered. "Teams don't just bench their best player." I don't know the reason, but I'm going to find out tomorrow. I barely slept that night. Every time I closed my eyes, I saw myself on that bench, useless, watching my team fall apart without me. By the time the sun came up, I was already in my car, driving to the practice facility. I needed answers, and I needed them now. The building was quiet when I arrived. Most of the staff wouldn't show up for another hour, but I knew someone would be there. Gerald Morrison, our general manager. The man who'd drafted me, who'd promised me I'd retire in this uniform, who'd looked me in the eye 3 years ago and told me I was the future of this franchise. His office light was on. I didn't knock. I just walked in and closed the door behind me. Gerald looked up from his computer, and for a second, something like guilt flashed across his face. Then it was gone, replaced by the cold corporate mask I'd seen him wear in negotiations. "I figured you'd show up early," he said. "Why am I benched, Gerald?" He leaned back in his chair, fingers steepled under his chin. "It's complicated. Uncomplicated. The owners are concerned about luxury tax implications. We're over the cap, and if we don't make moves now, we're looking at massive penalties. Your contract, your playing time, it all factors into the equation." I felt my hands curl into fists. "So you bench me? Your leading scorer? The guy who's been carrying this team all season?" "It's temporary," he said, but his voice lacked conviction. "Just until we figure out the financial situation. This is about money? We're in a playoff race and you're worried about tax penalties?" Gerald stood up, his jaw tight. "You don't understand the business side of this, son. The owners are bleeding cash. They need me to make hard decisions." "Don't call me son," I said quietly. "And don't insult my intelligence. This isn't about business. This is about you saving your job by sacrificing mine." His face went red. "Watch yourself. You're under contract. You play when we tell you to play, and you sit when we tell you to sit. We'll see about that." I walked out before he could respond, my heart pounding so hard I thought it might explode. The hallway stretched ahead of me, empty and cold, and I realized something that terrified me. I was completely alone in this fight. I called the one person who was supposed to be on my side no matter what. "Derek," I said when my agent picked up. We need to talk. Now. Derek Chen had been my agent since I got drafted. Sharp, aggressive, always 3 steps ahead of everyone else in the room. He'd negotiated my current contract, secured my endorsement deals, made me wealthy beyond anything I'd imagined as a kid. I trusted him with my career, my finances, my future. I heard about last night, Derek said, his voice smooth and controlled. I've already been on the phone with the team's lawyers. What's going on? Gerald fed me some garbage about luxury tax. It's not garbage. The team is in serious financial trouble. But here's the thing, and you need to listen carefully. They made a mistake. What kind of mistake? Remember that clause we added to your contract during the extension negotiations? The one about playing time guarantees? I thought back to 3 years ago, sitting in a conference room with Derek and a team of lawyers, reviewing hundreds of pages of contract language. There were clauses about injuries, performance bonuses, trade restrictions, and a dozen other things I barely understood. Vaguely, I admitted. There's a provision that states if you're benched for reasons unrelated to performance or medical issues, and you miss more than 3 consecutive games, a penalty clause activates. The team owes you a guaranteed payment. How much? Derek paused, and I could hear the smile in his voice. $47 million. The world stopped. Say that again. $47 million. Guaranteed. Non-negotiable. If they keep you on that bench for 3 more games, the clause triggers automatically, and they have to pay you the full amount on top of your existing contract. I sat down on the curb outside the practice facility, my legs suddenly weak. That's more than my entire current contract. I know. And apparently, so does the team. I got a call from their lawyers at 6 this morning, threatening legal action, claiming the clause is void. Is it? Not a chance. I had 3 independent attorneys review that contract before you signed it. It's ironclad. But here's where things get interesting. The team is going to fight this. Hard. They can't afford to pay out that kind of money, not with their current financial situation. This is about to get very ugly, very public, and very expensive for someone. I closed my eyes, trying to process what this meant. A part of me felt vindicated, like finally someone was looking out for my interests. But another part, the part that still loved this game, this team, these fans, felt sick. Derek, I don't want to destroy this franchise. This isn't about destroying anything. This is about getting what you're contractually owed. They tried to play games with your career, and they're about to learn that actions have consequences. What do I do? Nothing. You sit tight, you stay quiet, and you let me handle this. Don't talk to the media, don't talk to the team, don't talk to anyone. This is a legal matter now, and anything you say can be used against you. After I hung up, I sat there for a long time, watching cars pull into the parking lot, players arriving for practice, staff members starting their day, everyone moving forward like nothing had changed, but everything had changed. In less than 24 hours, I'd gone from franchise player to legal adversary. My phone buzzed, a text from Marcus. Where you at? Coach is asking. I didn't respond. Instead, I drove home where Rachel was getting ready for work. She taught 2nd grade at an elementary school downtown, the same job she'd had before I made it to the league. She always said she needed her own purpose, her own identity separate from being a basketball player's girlfriend. You're back early, she said, concerned. Did you talk to them? Yeah, it's complicated. I told her everything. About Gerald, about the clause, about the $47 million. Her eyes widened, but instead of excitement, I saw worry creep across her face. That much money, she said quietly. Baby, that changes everything. It's what I'm owed. I know. But money like that, it brings out things in people. Dark things. Are you ready for what comes next? I wanted to tell her I was, that I could handle the pressure, the scrutiny, the war that was about to erupt. But the truth was, I had no idea what I was ready for. All I knew was that I'd been wronged and I wasn't going to just accept it. I have to do this, I said. She nodded slowly, then kissed my forehead. Then I'm with you, whatever happens. That afternoon, the story broke. Some reporter got wind of the situation, and within hours, it was everywhere. ESPN, Sports Illustrated, Twitter trending worldwide. The headlines were brutal. Star player benched in contract dispute. Team faces $47 million penalty and luxury tax gamble. Greed or justice. The battle that could destroy a franchise. My phone exploded. Reporters calling, texting, showing up at my building. I ignored all of it, following Derek's instructions to stay silent. But silence only made things worse. Without my voice in the conversation, everyone else filled in the blanks. Talking heads on TV debated whether I was a greedy athlete holding a team hostage or a victim of corporate manipulation. The fans turned on me fast. Social media was vicious. People I'd never met, who'd cheered for me just days ago, were now calling me selfish, a cancer, a traitor. They said I cared more about money than winning, that I'd given up on the team, that I should just shut up and play. But I wasn't playing. That was the whole point. On the third night, I went to the game, not in uniform, just sitting in the stands, in a hoodie, watching from the upper deck like any other fan. I needed to see it, to feel what it was like to be on the outside. We lost again. The team looked lost without me. The offense stagnant, the energy flat. And as the final buzzer sounded, I realized something that made my stomach turn. The worse the team played without me, the stronger my case became. My absence was proving my value, but it was also destroying the season for everyone else. Marcus found me in the parking garage afterward. He looked exhausted, still in his warm-ups, sweat staining his shirt. "Man, what are you doing?" he asked. "We need you. I'm benched, remember? Not my choice." "Then fight it, come back. We can still save this season." "It's not that simple." "Yes, it is." His voice echoed off the concrete walls. "You're making this about money when it should be about basketball. About us. About the guys who've had your back since day one." "You think I want this?" I shot back. "You think I want to be sitting at home while you guys struggle? The team did this, Marcus, not me. So now what? You take your $47 million and walk away? Let the franchise go bankrupt? Let all of us lose our jobs? That's not fair." "Fair?" He laughed bitterly. "Nothing about this is fair, brother. But you're the one with the power to end it, and you're choosing not to." He walked away before I could respond, and I stood there alone in that empty garage, his words cutting deeper than any headline or tweet ever could, because he was right. I did have the power to end this. All I had to do was give up what I was owed, swallow my pride, and go back to being what they wanted me to be, grateful, compliant, and silent. But something in me had broken the moment they put me on that bench. Some fundamental trust between player and organization, between man and employer, and I didn't know if I could just pretend it never happened. When I got home that night, my mom was sitting in my living room. She'd driven 4 hours from Cleveland without telling me, just showed up because she knew, the way mothers always know, that I needed her. "Baby," she said, standing up to hug me. "Talk to me." I broke down. Right there in her arms, I cried like I hadn't since I was a kid. All the pressure, the confusion, the anger, the guilt, it all came pouring out. She held me and didn't say a word, just let me feel everything I'd been holding back. "I don't know what to do, Mom," I finally said. "Everyone's mad at me. The team, the fans, my own teammates. But I didn't start this. I know, baby. I know. They think I'm greedy, that I care more about money than the game." She pulled back and looked me in the eye. "Do you?" "No. I don't think so. But Derek says I deserve that money, that it's in my contract, that they're trying to cheat me. And what does your heart say?" I didn't have an answer. She sighed and sat back down on the couch. "You know, when you were 10 years old, you came home from practice crying because your coach yelled at you. You said you wanted to quit basketball, that it wasn't fun anymore. And I told you something then that I think you need to hear again now." "What?" "I said the game will break your heart 1,000 times. Coaches will let you down, teammates will disappoint you, fans will turn on you, but none of that matters if you remember why you started playing in the first place. So tell me, baby, why did you start playing basketball?" I thought about that rusted hoop in our driveway, about shooting until dark, then shooting some more under the porch light, about dreaming of making it big so I could buy my mom a house so she wouldn't have to work 2 jobs anymore, so I could prove that all her sacrifices meant something. "Because I loved it," I said quietly, "because it made me feel like I could be somebody." "And do you still love it?" "Yes." "Then that's your answer. Not the money, not the lawyers, not what Derek says or what the fans think. The question is, what does love demand of you right now?" She stayed that night, and we talked until the sun came up. About my father, who left when I was 3. About the times we couldn't afford new shoes, so I played in ones that were 2 sizes too small. About her watching my games on TV now, crying with pride, knowing that her baby made it out. "I'm so proud of you," she said, "but I don't need you to be rich. I just need you to be happy. And baby, I can see in your eyes, you're not happy right now." The next morning, I made a decision. I called Derek and told him I wanted to meet with the team. No lawyers, no agents, just me and Gerald and whoever else needed to be in the room. He tried to talk me out of it, said it was a bad strategic move, that I'd be giving up leverage. but I didn't care about leverage anymore. I cared about the truth. Gerald agreed to meet that afternoon. When I walked into his office, he wasn't alone. The team's owner, Richard Steele, was there too. A billionaire in his 70s who'd bought the franchise 20 years ago as a vanity project. I'd met him maybe 5 times in my entire career. "Sit down," Steele said, his voice cold and authoritative. I stayed standing. "I want to understand something," I said. "Did you bench me to trigger the clause, or did you not know about it?" Gerald and Steele exchanged a look. Finally, Steele spoke. "We knew about the clause. We just didn't think it would ever matter." "Why not?" "Because we didn't think we'd ever need to bench you. You've been our best player. But circumstances changed. The league office came down hard on luxury tax violators this year. We're facing penalties that could cripple this franchise. We had to make cuts somewhere, and your salary is the biggest number on our books. So you thought you'd just bench me and hope I'd keep quiet?" "We thought you'd understand the business side," Gerald said, "that you'd be willing to renegotiate." "You thought wrong." Steele stood up, his face hardening. "Listen to me carefully, son. That clause may be legal, but if you enforce it, you will destroy this team. We can't pay $47 million and stay solvent. We'll have to sell players, cut staff, maybe even relocate the franchise. Is that what you want? To be known as the man who killed basketball in this city?" The weight of his words settled over me like a blanket made of stone. He was right. If I pushed this, there would be consequences far beyond my bank account. Jobs would be lost. Dreams would die. The city that had embraced me would watch their team crumble. But there was something else, too. Something they weren't saying. "You're bluffing," I said quietly. "If the team was really in that much trouble, you wouldn't have signed Marcus to a max extension last month. You wouldn't have traded for a starting center 2 weeks ago. This isn't about money. This is about control." Steele's eyes flashed with anger, and I knew I'd hit something true. "Get out of my office," he said. I left without another word, my heart pounding, my mind racing, because I just realized something terrifying. This wasn't going to end with a conversation. This was war, and I just fired the first real shot. That night, I got a call from an unknown number. When I answered, a woman's voice came through, professional and measured. "Is this speaking? Who is this?" "My name is Jennifer Lawson. I'm an investigative journalist with The Athletic. I've been looking into your situation with the team, and I think there's a much bigger story here than anyone realizes. Would you be willing to talk to me?" Every instinct told me to hang up. Derek's voice echoed in my head. "Don't talk to anyone." But something stopped me. "What kind of story?" "The kind that might explain why a financially stable franchise is suddenly claiming poverty. The kind that might show this isn't just about you. I have documents, sources, information that suggests something else is going on, but I need your cooperation. Why should I trust you? Because right now, everyone thinks you're the villain in this story, and I don't think that's true. I think you're being used, and I think the people using you are counting on you staying silent." I closed my eyes, standing at a crossroads I couldn't uncross. Say yes, and I'd be inviting even more chaos into my life. Say no, and I'd never know what she'd found. "I'll think about it," I said, and hung up. Rachel came out of the bedroom, wrapped in a robe, her eyes questioning. "Who was that?" "A reporter. She says there's more to this story."
"Do you believe her?" I looked out the window at the city below, at the arena lights glowing in the distance. My whole life was in this place. My career, my reputation, my sense of who I was. And somewhere in the middle of all this chaos, I'd lost sight of the simple truth that had driven me since childhood. I just wanted to play basketball. "I don't know what I believe anymore," I admitted. "But I'm starting to think this isn't just about a contract clause.
"I think something else is happening, and I'm caught in the middle of it. Then maybe it's time you found out what that something is." She was right. I couldn't keep reacting. I needed to understand. I needed to know who was playing me, and why, and what I was really fighting for. So I made another call, this time to Derek. "I want to see every document related to my contract," I said. "Every clause, every amendment, every piece of paper I signed. And I want to know exactly how that penalty clause ended up in there." "Why?" Derek asked, his voice suddenly guarded. "Because I'm starting to wonder if I'm the only one who didn't see this coming." There was a long silence on the other end of the line. "I'll put together a file," Derek finally said. "But you need to trust me on this. Everything I've done has been in your best interest." "That's what everyone keeps telling me," I said. "But whose interest am I serving right now? Yours? The team's? Mine?" I hung up before he could answer, and for the first time since this nightmare began, I felt like I was asking the right questions. Outside my window, the city continued its endless rhythm. Millions of people living their lives, unaware that in this one apartment, one man was trying to figure out if he'd been a player in his own story or just a pawn in someone else's game. And tomorrow, when the sun came up, I'd have to decide which one I wanted to be. Derek showed up at my apartment the next morning with a briefcase full of papers and an expression I'd never seen on his face before. Nervous. Almost defensive. "Coffee?" I offered, gesturing to the kitchen. "No thanks. Let's just get through this." He spread the documents across my dining table like he was dealing cards in a high-stakes poker game. Contract pages, addendums, email chains, legal memos. Years of negotiations reduced to ink and paper. "Start from the beginning," I said, sitting down. "How did that clause end up in my contract?" Derek loosened his tie and sat across from me. "You have to understand the context. 3 years ago, when we were negotiating your extension, the team was in a different position. They wanted you locked in long-term, but they were worried about injury risk. You just come off that ankle sprain that cost you 15 games. I remember. So they pushed for language that would let them out of the deal if you got hurt again. I pushed back hard. Said if they wanted protection, you deserved protection too. That's when I proposed the playing time guarantee. And they agreed to it? Not at first. It took 3 rounds of negotiations, but eventually their lawyers drafted language that seemed reasonable to both sides. If you were benched for performance or medical reasons, no penalty. But if they benched you for any other reason, and it lasted more than 3 consecutive games, the penalty clause would trigger. $47 million. Derek nodded. The number was calculated based on projected losses, endorsement opportunities, all-star bonuses, playoff incentives, future contract leverage. It was meant to be a deterrent, not something that would ever actually happen. But it is happening. Yes. I picked up one of the contract pages, scanning the dense legal language. Most of it was incomprehensible to me, written in a way that made my head hurt. "Did you expect this? When you wrote that clause, did you think they'd actually bench me?" Derek's hesitation told me everything. "You did," I said, my voice dropping. "You knew this could happen." "I didn't know, but I prepared for the possibility." "Why didn't you tell me?" "Because you were focused on playing basketball like you should be. My job is to protect your interests, to think 5 moves ahead. That's what you pay me for. I pay you to be honest with me. I am being honest. That clause is there because I knew teams can turn on players fast when money gets tight. I've seen it happen 100 times. A guy goes from untouchable to expendable overnight, and suddenly he's getting traded or cut or buried on the bench. I wasn't going to let that happen to you without consequences." I stood up and walked to the window, trying to process what he was saying. Part of me was grateful. He'd seen danger coming and built me a shield, but another part felt manipulated, like I'd been a chess piece moved around a board without understanding the game being played. "What happens now?" I asked. "Now we wait. The team has until the end of the week to decide how they want to proceed. They can either reinstate you, pay out the clause, or try to fight it in arbitration. My guess is they'll fight, and if they do, then this gets messy. Public depositions, financial disclosures, media circus, everything comes out." "Everything?" Derek stood up, gathering the papers. "The team's financial situation, their internal communications, their decision-making process, and probably some things about your contract negotiations that might not make everyone look good, including you." He met my eyes then, and I saw something I'd never seen before: vulnerability, including me. After he left, I sat with those documents for hours, trying to piece together the timeline. Email exchanges between Derek and the team's lawyers, notes about cap space and tax implications, references to other players, other contracts, other deals that had gone south. And then I found something that made my blood run cold. It was an email from Derek to the team's legal counsel dated 6 months ago, long before I was benched, long before any of this started. Regarding our previous discussion about the playing time clause in client's contract, I want to reiterate that this provision was included specifically to protect against the scenario we discussed. Should the team find itself in financial difficulty and consider reducing clients' minutes or role, they should be aware of the significant financial consequences. I trust this clarifies the situation. I read it 3 times, my hands shaking. Derek had warned them. 6 months ago, he'd explicitly told them what would happen if they benched me, which meant one of 2 things. Either the team knew about the clause and benched me anyway, or they didn't take Derek seriously until it was too late. But there was a third possibility that I didn't want to consider, that Derek had orchestrated this entire situation. My phone rang. Jennifer Lawson, the journalist. "Did you think about my offer?" she asked. I'm thinking. Well, while you're thinking, you should know that I just received some very interesting information from a league source. Would you like to hear it? I'm listening. The team's financial troubles aren't what they seem. Yes, they're over the luxury tax. Yes, they're facing penalties. But they're not broke. In fact, ownership just completed a very lucrative real estate deal last quarter. They're sitting on plenty of cash. Then why are they claiming poverty? That's what I'm trying to figure out. But I have a theory. What if this isn't about saving money? What if it's about something else entirely? Like what? Like leverage, like control, like making an example out of a player who has too much power. Think about it. You're the face of the franchise. You have a massive contract. You have influence in the locker room. Maybe they want to remind everyone who's really in charge. It sounded like conspiracy theory nonsense, but it also sounded possible. I need to go, I said. Wait, there's more. I've been looking into your agent's background. Did you know Derek Chen has negotiated 3 other contracts in the past 5 years that included similar penalty clauses? So, all 3 of those clauses ended up getting triggered. And in each case, Derek negotiated a settlement that earned him a significant bonus on top of his standard commission. I'm not saying he's playing you, but the pattern is interesting. She hung up before I could respond, leaving me standing in my living room with a phone in my hand and doubt eating away at my trust like acid. I needed to talk to someone I could trust, someone who had no agenda, no angle, no reason to lie. I drove to Marcus's house unannounced. He lived in a modest neighborhood, nothing like my penthouse, because he'd grown up with money and didn't need to prove anything. When he opened the door, he looked surprised to see me. "Man, what are you doing here? Can we talk?" He stepped aside and I walked into his living room. His wife was upstairs and I could hear his kids playing in their rooms. Normal family sounds. The kind of life I'd been too focused on basketball to build for myself. "I'm sorry about what I said the other night," Marcus started. "I was frustrated, and I took it out on you. You had every right to be frustrated. This whole situation is insane." We sat down, and I told him everything. About the clause, about Derek's email, about the journalist's theory. He listened without interrupting, his face growing more concerned with each detail. "So what do you think?" I finally asked. "Am I being paranoid? Or is something wrong here?" Marcus leaned back on his couch, hands behind his head. "You want the truth?" "Always. I think you're caught between people who all have their own interests and none of those interests are really about you. The team wants to save money or prove a point or whatever. Derek wants his payday. The media wants a story, and you're the one paying the price. So what do? You figure out what you want. Not what Derek wants, not what the team wants, not what I want or Rachel wants or your mom wants. You. What do you actually want out of this?" It was such a simple question, but I didn't have an answer. "I want to play basketball," I said quietly. "Then play. Walk away from the money, walk away from the fight, and just play." "But they wronged me." "Yeah, they did. And you can spend the next year fighting about it in court, making millions of dollars and destroying everything you've built. Or you can take the high road, get back on the court, and prove that you're bigger than all of this." "That's easy for you to say. You're not the one who got benched." "No, I'm not. But I am your best friend, and I'm watching you turn into someone I don't recognize. This anger, this bitterness, it's eating you alive. And for what? Money you don't even need?" His words hit hard because they were true. I'd been so focused on being right, on getting what I was owed, that I'd forgotten who I was underneath all of it. "I need to think," I said, standing up. Marcus walked me to the door. "Whatever you decide, I got your back. But don't let other people's games turn you into someone you're not." I drove around the city for hours after that. No destination in mind, just moving. I passed the arena where I'd played my first professional game, the park where I used to run hills during the off-season, the restaurant where Rachel and I had our first date. My whole life was woven into these streets, and I'd been so busy fighting that I'd forgotten to protect what really mattered. When I finally went home, Rachel was in the kitchen making dinner. She looked up when I walked in, and I could see the exhaustion on her face. This was wearing on her too. "Hey," she said softly. "Hey, you okay?" "I don't know." She put down the knife she was holding and came over to me. "Talk to me, please. You've been in your head for days and I can't help you if you won't let me in." So I told her everything. About Marcus, about Derek, about Jennifer's theories and the documents, and the impossible choice I was facing. She listened the way she always did, with her full attention, not interrupting, just being present. "Can I ask you something?" she said when I was done. "Anything. Do you trust Derek?" The question hung in the air between us. I wanted to say yes. I wanted to believe that the man I'd trusted with my career for 7 years had my best interests at heart, but the truth was more complicated. I don't know anymore, I admitted. Then maybe it's time you found out. She was right. I couldn't keep operating on assumptions and hope. I needed to know exactly what Derek's role was in all of this, and I needed to know now. The next morning I called Derek and asked him to meet me at my lawyer's office. Not his office, not my apartment, somewhere neutral where I could have a witness to whatever was said. "Why your lawyer?" Derek asked, immediately suspicious. "Because I'm starting to ask questions that need answers, and I want someone else to hear what you say." There was a long pause. "This feels like an ambush." "It's not. It's me taking control of my own situation. Are you coming or not?" He showed up an hour later, dressed in his usual expensive suit, but the confidence he normally carried was cracked around the edges. My lawyer, a woman named Patricia who'd handled my personal legal matters for years, sat beside me at the conference table. "Derek," I said when he sat down, "I need you to walk me through exactly how that penalty clause ended up in my contract. Step by step. Every conversation, every decision, every moment you didn't tell me something. I already explained this. Explain it again, for the record." So he did. And the more he talked, the more I realized that he'd been playing a long game I'd never been aware of. He'd inserted the clause knowing it might get triggered. He'd warned the team about it 6 months ago, creating a paper trail that protected him. He'd positioned himself perfectly. If the team paid out, he'd get his commission. If they fought it, he'd get publicity and leverage for future negotiations. Either way, he won. "You used me," I said when he was done. "I protected you." "No. You set me up as a pawn in a game I didn't even know we were playing." Derek's face hardened. "You think this business is about basketball? It's not. It's about leverage and power and knowing how to play the system. I made you rich. I made you famous. I made sure you'd never have to worry about money for the rest of your life. And now you're sitting here questioning my methods? Your methods are destroying my life." "Your life?" He laughed bitterly. "You live in a penthouse. You drive a car that costs more than most people make in a year. You have a girlfriend who loves you and a mother who's proud of you and a career that millions of people would kill for. Your life is fine. Better than fine. Then why do I feel like I'm drowning?" The question stopped him cold. Patricia cleared her throat, breaking the tension. "Gentlemen," she said calmly, "I think we need to focus on the immediate issue. Derek, did you or did you not knowingly create a situation where this penalty clause would likely be triggered?" "I created a protection mechanism. That's not what I asked." Derek looked at me, and for the first time since I'd known him, I saw something like regret in his eyes. "I didn't know it would happen," he said quietly, "but I hoped it might, because I knew that if it did, you'd be set for life. You'd never have to depend on anyone ever again. Not the team, not the fans, not even me. That clause was your freedom." "It's not freedom," I said. "It's a prison. Because now I'm trapped between taking the money and destroying everything I've built or walking away and looking like a fool who got played." "Then you make a choice. That's what adults do." I stood up, done with this conversation. "You're fired." Derek's face went pale. "What?" "You heard me. You're fired. I'll pay you what I owe you contractually, but we're done. I don't trust you. I don't believe you have my interests at heart, and I'm not going to let you profit off my misery anymore. You're making a mistake. Maybe, but at least it'll be my mistake." He left without another word, and I sat back down, my heart pounding. Patricia looked at me with something like approval. "That took courage," she said. "Or stupidity. Sometimes they're the same thing." After the meeting, I went for a walk. Just me in the city, trying to clear my head. I ended up at the arena, standing outside the employee entrance where I'd walked in 1,000 times before. The place where I'd become someone, where I'd found purpose and meaning and identity. And now, I was on the outside, looking in. My phone buzzed. A text from an unknown number. "If you want to know the truth about what's really going on, meet me at the address below. Come alone. JL, Jennifer Lawson." The address was a coffee shop in a neighborhood I'd never been to, the kind of place where nobody would recognize me. When I walked in, she was sitting in the back corner, a laptop open in front of her, files spread across the table. "You came," she said, looking up. "I need answers." "So do I. That's why I've been digging. Have a seat." I sat down and she pushed a folder across the table. "This is everything I've found so far. Financial records, internal emails, league documents. It paints a very different picture than what the team has been telling you." I opened the folder and started reading. Within minutes, my understanding of the entire situation shifted. The team wasn't in financial trouble. Not really. They were over the luxury tax, yes, but they'd been over it for 3 years and never complained. What had changed was ownership. Richard Steele was in the process of selling the team to a corporate group, and the sale price was contingent on the team's financial health. By claiming poverty, by creating a crisis around my contract, they were manufacturing a reason to cut costs and make the franchise more attractive to buyers. "They're using you," Jennifer said. "Your contract, your penalty clause, the whole thing. It's all theater designed to justify a fire sale before the ownership change. But why bench me? Why not just trade me? Because trading you would make them look bad. Benching you and claiming financial hardship makes them look responsible. And if you take the penalty payment, they can paint you as the greedy player who bankrupted the franchise. Either way, they win." I felt sick. So this was never about basketball. It was never about basketball. I looked at the documents again, seeing names I recognized. Gerald, Steele, lawyers, accountants, people who'd smiled at me in hallways and shook my hand at team events while planning to use me as a scapegoat. "What do I do with this information?" I asked. "That's up to you. You could go public, blow up their whole plan, or you could use it as leverage, force them to reinstate you and drop the financial hardship claim, or you could walk away and let them have what they want. What would you do?" Jennifer smiled. "I'm a journalist. I'd burn it all down and write the story. But I'm not you. You have more to lose." I thanked her and left, the folder tucked under my arm, my mind racing. I had the truth now. I had power, but I also had a choice to make about what kind of man I wanted to be. When I got home, Rachel was sitting on the couch with my mom. They'd been talking, and I could see from their faces that it had been serious. "Baby," my mom said, "we need to talk." I sat down, exhausted. "About what?" "About you. About who you're becoming in the middle of all this. I'm just trying to figure out what's right. Are you? Or are you trying to win?" The question cut deep. "What's the difference?" "The difference," Rachel said softly, "is that winning means someone else has to lose. But doing what's right means everyone can walk away with their dignity. They don't deserve dignity. They used me." "Maybe," my mom said, "but you're better than revenge. You're better than anger. I raised you to be better than that." I looked at these two women, the two people who knew me best in the world, and I saw in their eyes what they were really asking. Was I going to let this situation define me, or was I going to define myself? "I need time to think," I said. "Take all the time you need," my mom replied. "Just don't lose yourself while you're thinking." That night, I couldn't sleep. I lay in bed staring at the ceiling, turning everything over in my mind. The documents, the conversations, the choices. Derek was gone. My trust in the organization was shattered. My teammates were divided. The fans had turned on me, and I was holding information that could destroy people's careers and reputations. But none of that changed the fundamental question. What did I actually want? I got out of bed and went to my home gym, the place where I'd spent thousands of hours working on my game. I picked up a basketball, felt its familiar weight in my hands, and started shooting. Not thinking, just moving, muscle memory taking over, the rhythm of the game coming back to me. And somewhere in the repetition of shot after shot, I found my answer. I didn't want revenge. I didn't want to destroy people. I didn't even really want the $47 million, as crazy as that sounded. I just wanted to play basketball. Everything else was noise. When the sun came up, I knew what I had to do. It wouldn't make everyone happy. It might not even make me happy. But it was the only choice I could make and still recognize myself in the mirror. I called Patricia first. "I want to drop the claim," I said. "Are you sure?" "No, but I'm doing it anyway." "What about Derek's commission? Pay him what the contract says. I don't want any legal issues hanging over me." "Okay. And the team?" "Tell them I want a meeting. Just me and Steele. No lawyers, no agents, no audience. If he wants to sell this franchise, he's going to look me in the eye first and admit what he did. That's not legally advisable." "I don't care. Set it up." Next, I called Jennifer. "I'm not going public with the information," I said. "Why not?" "Because I don't want to be that story. I want to be the guy who walked away with his integrity. Even if they get away with what they did, they'll have to live with what they did. That's punishment enough." She was quiet for a moment. "You're a better person than I am." "I doubt that, but I'm trying." Then I called the hardest person of all, Coach Williams. "It's me," I said when he answered. "I know. I've been waiting for you to call. I want to come back. No conditions, no demands, no drama. I just want to suit up and play." "What about the money?" "I'm dropping the claim. It's over." I could hear emotion in his voice when he responded. "Why?" Because I miss the game, and I miss being part of something bigger than myself. And because somewhere in the middle of all this, I forgot why I started playing basketball in the first place. I need to remember. When can you start? Tomorrow, if you'll have me. We'll have you. We've always wanted you. Welcome home, son. When I hung up, Rachel was standing in the doorway, tears streaming down her face. I heard, she said. I'm so proud of you. I hope I don't regret this. You won't, because you made the choice that lets you sleep at night. The meeting with Steele happened the next afternoon. He looked surprised to see me walk into his office alone. No entourage, no legal team, just me. What do you want? He asked. I want you to know that I know everything. The sale, the manufactured crisis, the plan to use my contract as justification for cutting costs. I have the documents. I have the proof, and I could destroy this deal with one phone call. His face went white. Then why haven't you? Because I love this team more than I hate what you did. But I need you to understand something. I'm coming back, and I'm playing. And when you sell this franchise to whoever's buying it, you're going to tell them that the reason you succeeded is because your players had integrity even when ownership didn't. Is that a threat? No, it's a promise. I'm giving you the win, but you're going to remember that you didn't earn it. I walked out before he could respond, and for the first time in weeks, I felt light. That night, I went to the arena for practice. When I walked into the locker room, the whole team was there. Marcus saw me first, and his face split into a huge grin. Look who's back from exile, he said. I dropped my bag and looked around at these guys, my brothers, the people I'd gone to war with night after night. I'm sorry, I said, for everything, for the distraction, for the division, for making this about me instead of us. We're sorry too, one of the younger guys said. We should have had your back better. You had my back, I just couldn't see it. Coach Williams walked in then, and the room went quiet. He looked at me for a long moment, then nodded. All right, he said. Let's get to work. And just like that, I was home. The first game back felt like walking into a different universe. I'd been away for 3 weeks, 21 days that felt like years. In that time, the team had lost 8 straight games, dropped from 4th place to 10th in the conference, and watched their playoff hopes start to slip away. The media had declared the season over. Fans were selling their tickets. The locker room, according to Marcus, had become a place of silent frustration and dying hope. But now I was back. The morning of the game, I woke up before dawn. My body knew the rhythm, the pre-game ritual that had been part of my life for so long. Light breakfast, stretch, visualization, music. I'd missed it all desperately, even the parts I used to complain about. Rachel was still asleep when I left. I kissed her forehead, and she stirred just enough to whisper, "Go get them." The arena was empty when I arrived, just security and maintenance staff preparing for the night ahead. I used my key card to access the practice court and spent an hour shooting by myself, the sound of the ball echoing in the vast space. Every shot felt like a prayer. Every swish felt like forgiveness. Coach Williams found me there around noon. "Thought I'd find you here," he said, leaning against the doorway. Old habits. He walked onto the court, picked up a ball and took a shot from the corner. It rattled in. "We need to talk about tonight." I'm ready. I'm not doubting that, but the media is going to be savage. The fans, they're divided. Some are happy you're back. Others think you abandoned the team when we needed you most. And the guys, they're glad you're here, but there's still some hurt. I know. So here's what I need from you. Don't try to be a hero. Don't try to fix everything in one night. Just play your game, trust your teammates, and let the rest work itself out. I nodded, but we both knew it wouldn't be that simple. This wasn't just a basketball game. It was a statement, a test, a chance to prove that I was who I claimed to be. The locker room before the game was tense. Guys were going through their routines, but the energy was off, nervous, uncertain, like they weren't sure what version of me would show up. I dressed quietly, pulling on my uniform for the first time in weeks. Number 23, the number that had defined my career, that fans wore on their backs, that kids practiced in their driveways pretending to be me. It felt heavier than I remembered. Marcus came over while I was lacing my shoes. "You good?" he asked quietly. "Yeah. You?" "I'll be better once we're playing. This waiting around is killing me." "Marcus, I need to say something." "Don't. We're past that. You're here now. That's all that matters." But I needed to say it anyway. "You were right about everything. I lost myself in all that noise. Forgot what was important. You pulled me back, man. I owe you." He grabbed my shoulder and squeezed. "Brothers don't keep score. Now let's go remind everyone why we're here. When we walked out for warm-ups, the reaction from the crowd was mixed. Some people cheered, some booed. Most just watched, waiting to see what would happen. I could feel 20,000 pairs of eyes judging me, measuring me, deciding if I was worth their faith. I went through my warm-up routine, trying to block it all out. Shots from the corners, free throws, pick and roll work with Marcus. My body remembered everything, but my mind was racing. What if I'd been away too long? What if the chemistry was broken? What if I'd made a huge mistake coming back? Then I saw her, my mom, sitting courtside in the seat I'd bought her years ago. She was wearing my jersey and holding a sign that said simply, "Proud of you." Next to her was Rachel, beaming, looking more beautiful than I'd ever seen her. Everything else fell away. The national anthem played. The starting lineups were announced. When they called my name, the crowd's response was louder than I expected. Not universal love, but not hatred either. Something in between. Acknowledgement. A chance. I'd take it. The game started fast. The other team, sensing blood in the water, came out aggressive. They knew we'd lost 8 straight. They knew our confidence was shattered. They thought they could run us out of our own building. For the first quarter, they were right. I was rusty. My timing was off. Shots I normally made with my eyes closed were clanging off the rim. My passes were a half-second late. My defense was a step slow. Everything felt wrong, like I was playing in someone else's body. We were down by 15 at the end of the first quarter. Coach called a timeout, and the frustration in the huddle was palpable. One of the younger players slammed his towel down. Another shook his head in disgust. This was what they'd feared, that my return wouldn't fix anything, that we'd still lose, that the season was truly over. Coach looked at me, talked to them. Every head turned in my direction. These guys needed something from me, something I wasn't sure I had to give, but I had to try. "I know I'm off tonight," I said. "I know I'm not playing like myself, but that's going to change. I need you to trust me. I need you to keep playing, keep fighting, and I promise you, I'm going to figure this out." "We've been fighting for 3 weeks while you were sitting at home," one of the guys muttered. The words stung because they were partially true, but before I could respond, Marcus stood up. "Hey, all of us have been through stuff. All of us have had moments where we weren't at our best, but we're a team, which means when one of us struggles, the rest pick up the slack. He's back. He's here. So let's act like it." The buzzer sounded, ending the timeout. We went back out, and I felt the weight of expectation crushing down on me. I had to deliver. Not for me, for them. The second quarter was better. Not great, but better. I found my rhythm a little, hit a couple of shots, made a nice pass to Marcus for an easy layup. We chipped away at the lead, cutting it to 9 by halftime. In the locker room, Coach kept it simple. "Defense, that's where we're losing this. Lock in, communicate, and we can still win this." The third quarter was where everything changed. I don't know if it was muscle memory kicking in, or adrenaline, or just the sheer refusal to fail in front of my mom and Rachel and everyone who'd believed in me. But something clicked. The game slowed down. My body remembered what my mind had forgotten. I stopped thinking and started playing. I hit 3 straight shots. Then I found Marcus cutting to the basket for a dunk. Then I stole the ball and went coast to coast for a layup. The crowd, which had been quiet and nervous, started to wake up. The energy in the building shifted. We were fighting back. By the end of the third quarter, we'd taken the lead. The fourth quarter was a war. Every possession mattered. Every shot was contested. The other team wasn't going to give up easy, and neither were we. Back and forth, neither side giving an inch. With 2 minutes left, we were tied. Coach called a timeout and drew up a play. 23, he said, pointing at me. "You're taking the last shot if we get a good look. Trust your training." We came out of the timeout and ran the play perfectly. The ball swung around the perimeter, defenders scrambling to cover. With 10 seconds on the shot clock, Marcus set a screen, and I came off it with space. The defender recovered quick, hand in my face, but I'd taken this shot 10,000 times in practice. I rose up and released. The ball felt good leaving my hand. Perfect rotation. Perfect arc. Time seemed to stop as it traveled through the air, and for that brief moment nothing else existed. Not the controversy. Not the money. Not the pain. Just me, the ball, and the basket. Swish. The arena exploded. We were up by 3 with 90 seconds left, and suddenly everyone was on their feet. The guys on the bench were jumping and screaming. The crowd was deafening. Rachel and my mom were hugging each other, crying. The other team called timeout, and as I walked to our bench, I felt something I hadn't felt in weeks. Joy. Pure, uncomplicated joy. "That's the shot," Marcus said, pounding my chest. "That's the guy we need." We held on to win by 5. When the final buzzer sounded, I dropped to my knees, overwhelmed by emotion. My teammates mobbed me, and I let myself get lost in their celebration, in their acceptance, in the reminder that basketball was always supposed to be about this. The shared struggle, the collective triumph, the brotherhood forged through competition. After the game, the media wanted interviews. I'd avoided them for weeks, but now I had to face them. The questions came fast and predictable. How does it feel to be back? Do you regret the time away? What about the contract dispute? Are you and the organization on good terms now? I answered them all as honestly as I could, without revealing too much. Yes, it felt good to be back. Yes, I had regrets. The contract situation was resolved. The organization and I were moving forward. All the usual platitudes that didn't really say anything. But then one reporter asked something different. "There are rumors that you walked away from a significant amount of money to come back. Can you comment on that?" The room went silent, everyone waiting for my response. I could feel the weight of the question, the implication behind it. Was I a fool for giving up that money, or was I something else? "I'm not going to talk about contract details," I said carefully. "But I will say this. Sometimes the most valuable thing you can do is remember what actually matters. For me, that's this game and these guys. Everything else is just noise." "So you chose basketball over money?" "I chose being able to look at myself in the mirror. The rest is nobody's business but mine." After the press conference, I found Rachel and my mom waiting outside the locker room. My mom hugged me so tight I could barely breathe. "I'm so proud of you, baby," she whispered. So proud." "I couldn't have done it without you, Mom. You and Rachel kept me sane." Rachel took my hand. "You kept yourself sane. We just reminded you who you were." We went to dinner that night, just the 3 of us, at a quiet restaurant where nobody bothered us. We didn't talk about basketball or contracts or controversy. We just talked about life, about Rachel's students, about my mom's garden, about normal, beautiful, mundane things that had nothing to do with fame or fortune. It was the best night I'd had in months, but as good as that night was, I knew the real test was still ahead. One game didn't fix everything. The team was still struggling, the season was still in jeopardy, and my relationship with the organization was still fractured, no matter what I'd said to the media. The next morning, I got a call from Gerald Morrison. "We need to talk," he said. "About what?" "About moving forward, about repairing the damage, about making sure this doesn't happen again." I agreed to meet him at the practice facility that afternoon. When I arrived, he wasn't alone. Richard Steele was there too, looking uncomfortable in athletic wear like he'd just come from a corporate golf outing. "Sit down," Steele said. I stayed standing. "All right, fine," he continued. "I'll say what needs to be said. We made mistakes. We handled the situation poorly. We put you in an impossible position, and we're sorry." The apology sounded rehearsed, insincere, but I'd learned enough about corporate speak to know this was probably the best I'd get. "Are you sorry you did it or sorry you got caught?" I asked. Steele's jaw tightened. "Don't push this." "I'm not pushing anything. I'm just trying to understand if this is a real apology or damage control." Gerald stepped in. "Look, we're all trying to move past this. The sale is happening regardless. New ownership takes over at the end of the season. What happens between now and then determines how you're remembered, both by the fans and by the new owners. Is that a threat? It's reality. You can finish this season as a hero who came back and saved the team, or as a distraction who couldn't let go of his ego. Your choice." I looked at these 2 men, these representatives of everything I'd been fighting against, and I realized something. They'd never see me as anything more than an asset, a number on a spreadsheet, a piece to be moved around their corporate chessboard. But I didn't need them to see me. I just needed to see myself clearly. "I'm going to finish this season," I said, "because I made a commitment to my teammates. But after that, when my contract is up, I'm gone. I'll never play for this organization again." "You're under contract for 2 more years after this one," Gerald said. "Then trade me, because I'm done being treated like property." I walked out, and this time, I didn't look back. The weeks that followed were a blur of basketball. Game after game, practice after practice, film session after film session. We were fighting for our playoff lives, and every night mattered. I pushed myself harder than I ever had, partly because the team needed it, but mostly because I needed to prove to myself that I could still do this. We won 7 out of the next 10 games. Slowly, painfully, we clawed our way back into playoff contention. The chemistry that had been broken started to repair itself. Guys trusted each other again. The locker room felt like home again. But not everything was fixed. There were still moments when I'd catch guys looking at me differently, like they weren't sure if I'd stay or leave again. There were still fans who booed when they announced my name. There were still reporters who wrote articles questioning my commitment, my character, my legacy. And there was still Derek. He'd been calling and texting for weeks, trying to apologize, trying to explain, trying to salvage our relationship. I'd ignored all of it until one night, after a particularly tough loss, I finally answered. "What do you want?" I asked. "I want to make this right," he said. "There's nothing to make right. We're done." "You don't mean that. We've been through too much together." "That's the problem, Derek. We've been through things I didn't even know we were going through. You played me, you set me up, you used me for your own gain. I made you rich. You made yourself rich. I was just the vehicle." There was a long silence. Then Derek's voice came back, quieter, more vulnerable than I'd ever heard it. "You're right," he said. "I did use you, and I'm sorry. But I also believed in you when nobody else did. I fought for you when teams wanted to lowball you. I built your career from nothing. That has to count for something. It does count. That's why I paid you what I owed you. But trust, once it's broken, doesn't just come back because someone says sorry. So that's it? 7 years just gone? Yeah, that's it." I hung up, and for the first time since I'd fired him, I felt a twinge of sadness. Derek had been manipulative and self-serving, but he'd also been there. Through the draft, through my rookie year, through injuries and bad games and moments when I doubted myself, he'd been a constant presence, and now that presence was gone. But some things can't be unbroken. Some betrayals can't be forgiven, no matter how much history you share. Rachel noticed the change in me that night. "You okay?" she asked as we were getting ready for bed. I talked to Derek. And it's really over, no going back." She sat down next to me on the edge of the bed. "How do you feel about that?" "Sad, relieved, confused. All of it at once." "That's grief," she said softly. "You're mourning the relationship you thought you had. I didn't think it would hurt this much. That's because you're not as cold as you pretend to be. You feel things deeply, even when you wish you didn't." She was right, of course. That was always Rachel's gift, seeing through my defenses to the vulnerable person underneath. "I'm scared," I admitted. "What if I can't trust anyone anymore? What if every relationship becomes transactional? What if I turn into one of those guys who's so paranoid about being used that they push everyone away?" "You won't," she said with certainty. "Because you have people who love you for who you are, not what you can do for them. You have Marcus, you have your mom, you have me, and as long as you remember that, you'll be fine." "How did I get so lucky to find you?" "You didn't find me. I found you. In a library studying for an exam you were going to fail, looking lost and overwhelmed and completely oblivious to how handsome you were." I laughed, remembering. "I thought you were way out of my league." "You were right, but I liked your humility. Still do." That night, I slept better than I had in months. The season wound down with us fighting for the 8th seed. Every game was a battle. Every possession felt like life or death. The media narrative shifted from whether we'd make the playoffs to whether we deserved to after the chaos of the season. With 3 games left, we needed to win out to have a chance. The first game, we won in overtime. I scored 38 points, had 9 assists, played all 48 minutes. My body was exhausted, but my spirit was alive. The second game, Marcus went down with an ankle injury in the 3rd quarter. We lost, and suddenly our playoff hopes were hanging by a thread. The final game of the regular season was at home against our biggest rival. If we won, and if 2 other games went our way, we'd sneak into the playoffs. If we lost, the season was over. The arena was sold out. Everyone who doubted us, everyone who'd written us off, everyone who'd turned their backs during the controversy, they all showed up to watch, to judge, to see if we had anything left. In the locker room before the game, Coach Williams didn't give a speech. He just looked at us and said, "Everything we've been through this year, it all comes down to tonight. Leave nothing in reserve. Whatever happens, we walk out of here with our heads high." Marcus couldn't play, so Coach started a rookie in his place. The kid looked terrified. "Hey," I said to him during warm-ups, "you're going to be fine. Just play your game. I got your back." "What if I mess up?" "Then you mess up. But you're not going to mess up. You're going to go out there and show everyone why Coach believes in you." The game started, and the rookie was phenomenal. Fearless, athletic, completely unaware that he was supposed to be nervous. He hit his first 3 shots, and suddenly we had energy. But the other team wasn't going away easy. They knew what this game meant to us, and they wanted to be the ones to end our season. It was personal, physical, Intense. The kind of basketball that separates pretenders from contenders. At halftime, we were down by 4. In the locker room, guys were exhausted, bleeding from scratches and collisions, pushed to their absolute limit. "One more half," I said, standing up. 24 minutes. That's all we have left to save this season. Who's with me? Every hand went up. The third quarter was a war of attrition. Neither team could pull away. Every time we'd get close, they'd answer. Every time they'd try to extend the lead, we'd fight back. It was beautiful, brutal basketball. Going into the fourth quarter, we were tied. With 5 minutes left, I felt my body starting to give out. I'd played 43 minutes already, and every step felt like running through concrete. But I couldn't come out. Not now. Not when everything was on the line. I hit a 3 to put us up by 2. They answered with a layup. I drove to the basket and got fouled, made both free throws. They hit a 3. Back and forth, neither team willing to blink. With 30 seconds left, we were down by 1. Coach called timeout. "Same play as before," he said. 23, you're taking the shot. We came out and I could feel everyone in the arena holding their breath. The play developed perfectly. I got the ball with 6 seconds on the clock, space to work, and a defender closing fast. I pump faked, he bit, and I went up for the shot. In that moment, suspended in the air, I thought about everything. The bench, the betrayal, Derek, the claws, my mom, Rachel, Marcus. All of it flashed through my mind in an instant. And then I let the ball go. It floated through the air in slow motion, the entire season riding on its trajectory. 20,000 people watched in silence as it arced toward the rim. It hit the back iron, bounced up, and hung on the rim for what felt like an eternity. Then it dropped through. We won by 1. The place erupted. My teammates tackled me. The crowd stormed the court. Chaos everywhere. Beautiful chaos. We'd done it. Against all odds. Through all the pain and division and doubt, we'd done it. In the middle of the celebration, I found Rachel and my mom. We hugged, crying together, and I realized that this moment, this feeling, this was why I played. Not for money, not for fame, for this shared joy with people I loved. Later, in the locker room, after the media had left and most of the guys had gone home, I sat alone with my jersey, looking at the number 23. This uniform meant something to me that I couldn't quite put into words. Identity, purpose, home. Marcus limped in on crutches, his ankle heavily wrapped. "Hell of a game," he said, sitting down beside me. "Couldn't have done it without you all season." "Yeah, you could have, but I'm glad you didn't have to." We sat in comfortable silence for a while. Then Marcus said something that hit me hard. "You know what I realized watching tonight? This wasn't about making the playoffs. This was about you proving you're not who they said you were. That you're not greedy or selfish or a distraction. You're just a guy who loves basketball and wanted to be treated with respect. Think I proved it? To the people who matter? Yeah, the rest don't deserve your energy." He was right. I'd spent so much time worrying about perception, about what fans thought, what media said, what history would remember. But the only opinions that truly mattered were the ones from people who actually knew me. When I finally left the arena that night, the sun was coming up. I drove through the empty city streets, windows down, music off, just listening to the sound of morning. Somewhere in this city, people were waking up to start their day, unaware that I'd just lived through one of the most important nights of my life. I thought about calling Derek to tell him we'd won, but I didn't. That chapter was closed. Instead, I called my mom. "We did it," I said when she answered. "I know, baby. I watched every second. Thank you for everything, for believing in me when I stopped believing in myself. That's what mothers do. We hold the belief until you're ready to carry it again." When I got home, Rachel was making breakfast. She smiled when I walked in, and I realized how lucky I was to have found someone who loved me for who I was, not what I could provide. "Hungry?" she asked. "Starving." We ate together in comfortable silence, and for the first time in months, I felt at peace. The war wasn't completely over. There would still be challenges ahead, still wounds to heal, still questions to answer, but I'd survived. More than that, I'd found myself again. And that was worth more than any contract clause, any amount of money, any headline or highlight or legacy. Making the playoffs as the 8th seed meant we'd face the number 1 seed in the first round. The best team in the league, 60 wins in the regular season, MVP candidate, home court advantage. Every analyst, every expert, every talking head on television gave us zero chance. They said we'd be lucky to win 1 game. I'd heard doubt before. I'd lived with it my whole life. kid from Cleveland with no father, single mom working 2 jobs, hand-me-down shoes, and a dream that seemed impossible. Doubt was my constant companion, my motivator, the voice I'd learned to use as fuel. So when they said we had no chance, I smiled. The first game was in their building, in front of their crowd, against their MVP. We were outmatched in every statistical category. They had more talent, more depth, more experience. On paper, it wasn't even close, but basketball isn't played on paper. We came out aggressive, physical, refusing to be intimidated. I scored 12 points in the first quarter, and we were only down by 3. The crowd, which had expected a blowout, grew quiet and nervous. Their star player started forcing shots, feeling the pressure. By halftime, we'd taken the lead. In the locker room, the energy was electric. Guys who'd been written off all season were playing with a freedom that came from having nothing to lose. The rookie who'd stepped up in Marcus's absence was fearless, attacking the rim like he belonged there. Our defense was swarming, connected, suffocating. Coach Williams kept it simple. They're rattled, keep attacking, make them doubt themselves. The third quarter was when they made their run. Their coach made adjustments, and suddenly everything we'd been doing stopped working. They went on a 15-2 run, and just like that, we were down by 10. I called timeout myself, walking straight to the bench and demanding it. "What are you doing?" one of the refs asked. "Saving our season." In the huddle, I looked at my teammates. Some were panicking. Others looked defeated. This was the moment that would define us. Would we fold under pressure, or would we find something deeper? "Listen to me," I said. "They're supposed to beat us. Everyone expects them to win. So let's play like we have nothing to lose because we don't. This season already defied every expectation. Let's go out there and shock the world one more time." Marcus, watching from the bench on crutches, stood up. "That's right. You guys get to do what most teams never do, play without fear, so go be fearless." We came out of that timeout and went on our own run. 12 straight points. The building went silent. Their coach called timeout, yelling at his players, and I could see the doubt creeping into their faces. With 5 minutes left in the game, we were tied. That's when their star took over. He hit 3 consecutive shots, doing things that defied physics and logic. But I'd been in these moments before. I'd felt the weight of carrying a team, and I knew that even the greatest players get tired. I stayed patient, took what the defense gave me, hit my free throws, made the right pass, and slowly, possession by possession, we chipped away. With 20 seconds left, we were down by 2. They had the ball, trying to run out the clock. If they scored, the game was over. If they missed, we'd have one chance. Their star drove to the basket, and I met him at the rim. We collided, both of us going down, and the ball ricocheted out of bounds. The refs huddled, reviewing the play, deciding whose ball it was. Time seemed to freeze. The entire arena held its breath. Finally, the ref pointed in our direction. Our ball. 18 seconds left. Coach drew up a play in the timeout, but everyone knew where the ball was going. To me, this was my moment. Everything I'd been through, everything I'd sacrificed, it all came down to one possession. We inbounded the ball with 15 seconds. I caught it at the top of the key, their best defender draped all over me. The shot clock wasn't running because the game clock was under a minute, so I could take my time. I sized him up, felt the rhythm of the game, heard the crowd screaming, and then I made my move. Crossover, between the legs, step back, and as I rose up for the shot, I knew it was good. The ball left my fingers with perfect rotation, and I watched it arc through the air like I'd watched 1,000 shots before. But this one was different. This one carried weight. Swish. We were up by 1 with 8 seconds left. They called timeout and drew up a play for their star. Everyone in the building knew he'd take the final shot. He'd made those shots hundreds of times before. He was clutch, confident, capable of breaking our hearts with one smooth motion. The ball came inbounds to him. He dribbled up the court with me guarding him, our eyes locked, 2 players who understood the magnitude of the moment. He crossed over at the top of the key, created space, and rose up. I contested as hard as I could, my hand in his face, but he was great for a reason. The shot looked good. It hit the rim, bounced up, and rolled off. We won. The celebration was chaos, pure, unfiltered joy. We'd just beaten the best team in the league on their home court in the playoffs. It was impossible, except it wasn't, because we'd just done it. In the post-game press conference, reporters bombarded me with questions. How did you do it? What does this win mean? Can you keep this up? I answered them all with the same theme. We believed in each other. We played as a team. We refused to accept what everyone else accepted as inevitable. But there was one question that caught me off guard. There are reports that you've decided not to re-sign with the team when your contract expires. Can you comment on that? The room went silent. I hadn't made any public announcement about my plans, but somehow, word had leaked. My focus right now is on this playoff run, I said carefully. Everything else can wait. But is it true? Are you leaving? I said everything else can wait. After the press conference, Gerald Morrison was waiting outside the media room. He looked stressed, his tie loosened, his usual corporate composure cracking. "We need to talk," he said. "Not now." "Yes, now. That leak about you leaving, it's creating problems. The new owners are concerned. They want assurances that you'll be part of the team's future." "I don't owe them assurances. I don't owe anyone anything except the guys in that locker room. You're being unreasonable." I stopped walking and turned to face him fully. "You know what's unreasonable? Benching your best player to save money, lying about financial hardship to justify bad decisions, treating people like assets instead of human beings. That's unreasonable. Me wanting respect? That's just basic dignity. The new owners are different. They want to build around you. Then they can prove it with actions, not words. Right now, I'm focused on winning games. You should try it sometime." I walked away, leaving him standing there, and I felt no guilt. I'd spent too much of my life accommodating other people's needs at the expense of my own. That version of me was gone. Game 2 was back in their building, and we lost by 20. They came out angry, determined to reassert dominance, and we couldn't match their intensity. It was humbling, a reminder that our Game 1 win hadn't been a fluke, but it also hadn't fundamentally changed who we were. We were still the 8th seed. They were still the better team. But now the series shifted to our building for Game 3, and our fans were hungry. They'd watched us fight through adversity all season, and now they wanted to see us win. The morning of Game 3, I got a call from an unknown number. When I answered, a man's voice came through. "Is this him? Who is this?" "My name is David Chen. I'm Derek's father." I almost hung up, but something stopped me. "What do you want?" "I want to talk to you about my son." "Not on the phone. In person. Please. It's important." Against my better judgment, I agreed to meet him at a coffee shop near my apartment. When I arrived, I found an older Chinese man sitting in the corner, wearing a suit that had seen better days. He stood when he saw me. "Thank you for coming," he said, shaking my hand. "I'm not sure why I did. Because you're a good man. Derek always said that about you. Even when you fired him, even when he was angry and hurt, he said you were a good man who'd been put in an impossible situation." We sat down, and he ordered coffee that neither of us touched. "Derek is my only son," he continued. "I raised him alone after his mother passed. I taught him to be ambitious, to never settle, to always fight for more. Maybe I taught him too well. Why are you telling me this? Because he's destroyed without you. Not financially, he'll be fine, but emotionally. You were more than a client to him. You were the proof that his methods worked, that his approach to business was justified. Without you, he questions everything. That's not my responsibility. I know, but I'm asking anyway. Not to take him back. I understand that bridges burned, but maybe if you see him struggling, you could remember that he's human, that he made mistakes from a place of ambition, not malice. Ambition that cost me my peace." David nodded sadly. "Yes, and I'm sorry for that. As a father, I failed to teach him that success without integrity is just failure in a nicer suit." He left after that, and I sat alone with my cold coffee, thinking about Derek, about how easy it was to judge people when you only saw their actions and not the wounds driving those actions. It didn't excuse what he did, but it helped me understand. Game 3 was electric. Our crowd showed up with an energy I'd never felt before. They were loud, passionate, desperate for us to prove that Game 1 wasn't a fluke. We fed off their energy, and from the opening tip, we were the better team. I scored 32 points. The rookie added 18. Our defense was suffocating. By the 4th quarter, we were up by 15, and the crowd was chanting, "We believe," when the final buzzer sounded, giving us a 2-1 series lead. The celebration felt different than Game 1, more confident, more believable. Like maybe this wasn't just a Cinderella story. Maybe we actually had a chance. In the post-game locker room, Marcus pulled me aside. "You know everyone's talking about you leaving, right?" "Yeah." "The guys are worried. They think if we win this series, you'll just walk away and all of this will be for nothing." "That's not true." "Then tell them. They need to hear it from you." So I stood up in the middle of the locker room and got everyone's attention. "I know there are questions about my future," I said. about whether I'm staying or leaving. And I'm not going to lie to you, I don't know what I'm going to do when this season ends. But I can promise you this. For as long as we're in these playoffs, I'm all in. Every ounce of energy, every bit of focus, everything I have goes into this team. You have my word. It wasn't a promise to stay, but it was a promise to be present. And right now, that was enough. Game 4 was the turning point. We lost in overtime, and their star scored 46 points. It was a heroic performance, the kind that reminded everyone why he was considered one of the greatest. We'd fought hard, but sometimes greatness wins out. The series was tied at 2 games apiece. Game 5 was back in their building, and the pressure was immense. Whoever won would be 1 game away from advancing. The loser would be facing elimination. They came out desperate, and we couldn't match it. We lost by 12, and suddenly we were down 3 games to 2, facing elimination in Game 6 at home. The flight back was quiet. Guys stared out windows or closed their eyes, processing the weight of what was ahead. We'd fought so hard to get here, exceeded every expectation, and now we were 1 loss away from it all ending. I couldn't sleep that night. I kept replaying moments from the season, from the whole journey, the bench, the betrayal, the documents, Derek, Jennifer, my mom's words, Rachel's support, Marcus's friendship, all of it swirling together into one overwhelming narrative. Around 3 a.m, Rachel found me on the balcony, staring at the city lights. "Can't sleep?" she asked, wrapping a blanket around both of us. "Too much in my head. Want to talk about it? I don't know if I can do this. Game 6, the pressure. What if I fail? Then you fail. But at least you'll fail trying. That's more than most people can say. I've worked my whole life to get here, to prove I belong, and now I might lose it all in 1 game. She turned me to face her, her eyes serious. "You already proved you belong. You did that the moment you walked away from the money and came back for the right reasons. Everything else is just basketball, and basketball is just a game." "Just a game," I repeated, letting the words sink in. "Just a game," she confirmed. "An important game, a meaningful game. But still, at the end of the day, just a game. Your value isn't determined by whether you win or lose. It's determined by who you are when the game is over." I kissed her then, grateful for her wisdom, her perspective, her ability to see past the noise to what actually mattered. The next morning, I woke up with clarity. Rachel was right. I'd been treating this like life or death, but it wasn't. It was basketball. And basketball at its core was supposed to be joyful. I needed to remember how to play with joy. At practice that day, I was loose, laughing, joking with the guys. Coach looked at me curiously, probably expecting tension and seriousness. But I'd spent too much of this season being tense. If we were going to lose, I wanted to lose playing the way I loved to play. Free, creative, unafraid. "You seem relaxed," Coach said. "I am." "Good. We need that energy." Game 6 was sold out. The crowd showed up 2 hours early, ready to will us to victory. The energy in the building was incredible, electric, the kind of atmosphere that makes you remember why you fell in love with basketball. In the locker room, I looked at my teammates and saw a mix of emotions: fear, excitement, determination, hope. "Listen," I said, standing up. "We're not supposed to be here. We're the 8th seed. We lost 8 straight at one point. Half the people watching tonight expect us to lose. But you know what? We've spent all season proving people wrong. Let's do it one more time." The game started fast. They jumped out to an early lead, hitting their first 5 shots, and the crowd grew nervous. But I wasn't worried. I'd learned that games aren't won in the first quarter. They're won in the moments when things get hard. We settled down, started playing our game, and by halftime, we'd taken the lead. The building was rocking, believing, hoping. The third quarter was a battle. Every possession felt critical. Neither team could pull away. It was beautiful, exhausting basketball, the kind that makes you grateful you chose this life. Going into the fourth quarter, we were up by 3. That's when their star took over again. He hit 4 straight shots, doing things that seemed impossible, and suddenly we were down by 5 with 6 minutes left. I could feel doubt creeping into my teammates, could see them tightening up. I called them together during a free throw. "Stay loose," I said. "We've been here before. Just play." Ooh, the next possession, I hit a 3. Then I stole the ball and found the rookie for a layup. Then I drew a foul and made both free throws. Just like that, we were up by 2. The crowd was deafening. The energy was insane. This was playoff basketball at its finest, 2 teams refusing to lose, fighting for every inch. With 2 minutes left, we were tied. They had the ball, running clock, trying to get the last shot. Their star had it at the top of the key, sizing me up, everyone in the building knowing he was going to shoot. He made his move, and I stayed with him. He rose up for a three, and I contested perfectly, my hand in his face. The shot clanged off the rim. I grabbed the rebound and we pushed in transition. I found the rookie on the wing, and he hit a three-pointer that gave us the lead with 43 seconds left. Their coach called timeout, and as I walked to our bench, I felt something I hadn't felt in a long time. Certainty. We were going to win. I knew it in my bones. They ran a play for their star, but this time our defense was perfect. We trapped him, forced him to pass, and when the shot went up, it was offline. We secured the rebound, and I was fouled immediately. I went to the line with 10 seconds left, needing to make both to seal the game. The crowd was standing, chanting my name, and I felt the weight of everything on my shoulders. First free throw, good. Second free throw, good. We were up by 5 with 10 seconds left. They hit a meaningless 3 at the buzzer, and when the final horn sounded, we'd won. We'd forced a Game 7. The celebration was pure chaos. Guys jumping on each other, the crowd storming the court. Pure, unbridled joy. We'd done the impossible. We'd come back from the brink of elimination and forced the best team in the league to a deciding game. In the locker room, champagne was flowing, and guys were laughing and crying and celebrating. But I found a quiet corner and just sat, absorbing the moment. Marcus found me there. "One more game," he said. "One more game," I repeated. "How you feeling?" "Terrified, excited, grateful, all of it." "Good. That means you're alive." We sat together in comfortable silence, two brothers who'd been through war together, and I realized that no matter what happened in Game 7, I'd already won. I'd found myself again. I'd remembered why I played. I'd chosen integrity over money, team over ego, love over fear. Everything else was just details. That night, I couldn't celebrate with the team. I needed to be alone, to process, to prepare. I went home, and Rachel was waiting. "You did it," she said, hugging me. "Not yet. One more game." "One more game," she echoed. And then I figure out what comes next. Do you know what you want? I thought about it, really thought about it. About the organization that had betrayed me, about the city that had embraced me, about the teammates who'd become family, about the game I loved more than anything. "I want peace," I said finally, whatever that looks like. Game 7 was in their building. Winner advances, loser goes home, everything on the line. The morning of the game, I woke up calm. No anxiety, no fear, just acceptance of whatever was about to happen. I called my mom. "How you feeling, baby?" she asked. "Ready. I'm proud of you. No matter what happens tonight." "I know, Mom. That's why I'm ready." The arena was packed 3 hours before tip-off. Both teams went through shoot-around with intensity that bordered on violence. This wasn't just basketball anymore. This was war. In the locker room, Coach didn't give a speech. He just looked at us and said, "Everything you've got, leave nothing behind." The game started, and from the first possession, I knew it was going to be legendary. Both teams playing at the highest level, every play executed perfectly, every shot contested, every possession earned. By halftime, we were down by 1. The third quarter was where legends are made. Their star scored 15 points in the quarter, hitting impossible shots, playing at a level that reminded everyone why he was great. But I matched him shot for shot. When he scored, I answered. When he made a play, I made one back. Going into the fourth quarter, we were tied. The final 12 minutes were the most intense basketball I'd ever played. Every possession felt like it lasted an hour. Every decision carried the weight of the season. The crowd was going insane, split between wanting to see their team advance and witnessing greatness from both sides. With 1 minute left, we were down by 2. We ran a play for me, and I hit a step-back jumper to tie it. They came back down, and their star drove to the basket. I contested, and he missed. We got the rebound with 35 seconds left. Timeout. In the huddle, Coach drew up a play, but then he looked at me and said, "Or you just go make a play." "I'll make a play," I said. We came out of the timeout, and I had the ball at the top of the key. 20 seconds on the clock. Their best defender on me. 20,000 people screaming. I took a deep breath and started my move. Crossover. Hesitation. Between the legs. And then I saw it. A sliver of space, just enough to get a shot off. I rose up from 25 feet, and as the ball left my hands, time stopped. The entire arena held its breath. Everything I'd been through, everything I'd sacrificed, everything I'd learned, It all came down to this single moment. The ball arced through the air in perfect rotation, and then it went through the net. We were up by 2 with 12 seconds left. The building erupted in shock. Their coach called timeout, his star getting ready for one final shot. In our huddle, coach said, "Perfect defense. That's all we need." They inbounded the ball, and their star came flying up the court. I picked him up at half court, denying him space, making him work for every inch. He crossed over at the three-point line, rose up for a game winner. I jumped with everything I had, my hand reaching his shot at the apex of its arc. Block. The ball went out of bounds. 2.3 seconds left. Their ball. They had one chance. One final play. The destiny of the season riding on a single possession. They ran a perfect inbound play, their star catching the ball in rhythm, rising up for a three-pointer that would win the series. The shot looked good. I could see it going in. The crowd was already celebrating, but then it hit the rim, bounced twice, and fell off. We'd won. Game 7. On the road. Against the best team in the league. We'd done it. The celebration was unlike anything I'd ever experienced. Pure euphoria. Guys crying, laughing, unable to believe what had just happened. We'd defied every odd, exceeded every expectation, and proven that belief can overcome talent when you refuse to quit. In the handshake line, their star pulled me aside. "Hell of a series," he said. "You too. For what it's worth, I think you're the best player I've faced this year." Coming from him, that meant everything. The post-game press conference was a blur. Questions about the shot, about the series, about what came next. I answered them all honestly, gratefully, humbly. And when they asked if this changed my plans about leaving, I said, "This changed everything, but I still don't know what comes next. Right now, I'm just grateful we get to keep playing." On the flight home, I sat next to Marcus, both of us exhausted and exhilarated. "We actually did it," he said. "We actually did it," I agreed. "What now?" "Now we keep going, as far as this journey takes us." He smiled and closed his eyes, and I looked out the window at the clouds below, thinking about destiny and choice and the thin line between the two. I'd walked away from $47 million. I'd fired my agent. I'd faced betrayal, doubt, and pressure that would have broken most people. But I'd also found myself again. I'd remembered who I was and what mattered. I'd chosen love over fear, team over ego, integrity over profit. And now, somehow, impossibly, I was still playing basketball in the second round of the playoffs, surrounded by brothers, supported by love, living a story that would have seemed impossible just months ago. Whatever came next, I was ready, because I'd already won the only game that truly mattered, the fight for my own soul. The second round of the playoffs brought a different kind of pressure. We weren't underdogs anymore. We'd beaten the best team in the league, and now everyone expected us to keep winning. The media narrative shifted from Cinderella story to legitimate contender, and with that came scrutiny, expectation, and the weight of possibility. Our next opponent was a veteran team, methodical and disciplined, built around two aging stars trying to win one last championship before retirement. They weren't as talented as the team we'd just beaten, but they were smarter, more experienced, and they'd been here before. We hadn't. The series started at their place, and they dismantled us in Game 1. It wasn't even close. They executed perfectly, exploited every weakness, and made us look like the 8th seed we actually were. We lost by 23, and the flight home was silent, everyone processing the humiliation. "They just showed us we still have a lot to learn," Coach said in our first practice back. But that's okay. Learning is part of growing. Game 2 was at home, and we came out angry. We played with an edge that bordered on reckless, and it worked. We won by 15, evening the series. But the victory felt hollow somehow, like we were playing angry instead of playing right. After the game, I stayed late shooting by myself, trying to find the joy that had carried us through Game 7. The building was empty except for maintenance crews, and the silence was almost meditative. That's when I saw him, Derek, standing in the tunnel entrance watching me shoot. "What are you doing here?" I asked, the ball still in my hands. "I came to the game, bought a ticket like everyone else. I was leaving when I saw you in here. You should keep leaving. Can we talk? Please, just 5 minutes." Every instinct told me to say no, but something in his voice, some vulnerability I'd never heard before, made me hesitate. 5 minutes, I said. He walked onto the court, keeping his distance, respecting the boundary between us. "I watched Game 7, he started. "That shot you hit, that was the best basketball I've ever seen you play, and I've seen you play a lot of basketball. Is that what you came to say?" "No." I came to say I'm sorry. Really sorry. Not because I want you back as a client. I know that's over. But because you deserved better from me. You trusted me with your career, and I turned it into a game where you were just a piece on the board. I started shooting again, the rhythm helping me process his words. My father came to see you, he continued. He told me. I didn't ask him to, but that's the kind of man he is. Always trying to clean up my mess. He's a good man. Yeah, better than his son. Derek picked up a ball and took a shot. It went in. I spent so long trying to prove I was the smartest guy in the room that I forgot to be a good guy in the room. And I lost the only client who ever felt like more than just business. You lost a friend, I said quietly. That's what hurts. I know, and I can't fix it. Can't take it back. Can't undo the damage. So I'm not here to ask for forgiveness or another chance. I'm just here to tell you that watching you these last few weeks, seeing you choose integrity over money, team over self, it reminded me of why I got into this business in the first place, before I got cynical and greedy. You reminded me that this is about people, not just numbers. He took another shot. This one missed. I'm starting over, he said. New approach, new philosophy, treating clients like human beings instead of assets. It probably won't make me as rich, but maybe I'll be able to sleep at night. Good, I said. You should. Thank you. For everything. For trusting me as long as you did. For teaching me what I should have already known. For being better than I deserved. He walked toward the tunnel and I watched him go, feeling something I didn't expect. Peace. The anger was gone. The betrayal had healed. What remained was just sadness for a friendship that couldn't be salvaged, and hope that he'd actually change. Derek, I called out. He turned. Good luck, I mean it. He nodded, his eyes glistening, and then he was gone. When I got home that night, Rachel was grading papers at the kitchen table. She looked up when I walked in. You were at the gym late, she said. Derek showed up. Her expression shifted to concern. What did he want? To apologize, and I think he meant it. How do you feel? Lighter, like I've been carrying something heavy and finally got to put it down. She stood up and hugged me. That's called closure. It's a good feeling. Yeah, it is. The series against the veteran team went 7 games. They were tougher, smarter, more disciplined than anyone we'd faced. But we were younger, hungrier, and we'd learned that belief could overcome experience when you refused to break. Game 7 was at our place, and the city showed up like never before. The arena was rocking an hour before tip-off, and the energy was electric. This wasn't just a basketball game anymore. It was a movement, a belief that anything was possible if you fought hard enough. We won by 6. When the final buzzer sounded, I fell to my knees at center court, overwhelmed by emotion. We'd done it again, defied the odds again, proven everyone wrong again. Marcus pulled me up, and we hugged, both of us crying, both of us understanding that we were living through something special, something we'd tell our grandchildren about. Conference finals, he said. Can you believe it? I couldn't. 2 months ago, I'd been sitting on a bench watching my career implode. Now I was 4 wins away from the championship. Life was strange like that. The conference finals brought us face-to-face with a dynasty. 3 championships in the last 6 years. Multiple Hall of Famers. A coach who'd won everywhere he'd been. They were everything we weren't. Proven, polished, championship-tested. The first 2 games were in their building, and they beat us soundly both times. Not blowouts, but convincing victories that showed the gap between us. We were good. They were great. And in the playoffs, great usually wins. Coming home down 2-0, the media started writing obituaries for our season. It had been a good run, they said, but this was where it ended. Against real championship competition, we simply weren't good enough. I stopped reading the coverage, stopped watching the talking heads, focused only on what I could control, my preparation, my mindset, my effort. Game 3 at home, we played the best defensive game of the season and won by 8. Game 4 was an offensive explosion. We shot 60% from the field, and I scored 41 points. We won by 15. Suddenly the series was tied. Game 5 was back in their building, and they came out desperate. Their stars played like their legacy depended on it because it did. We fought hard, but they were better that night. We lost by 10, down 3-2, facing elimination again. Everyone expected us to fold. We'd had a magical run, they said, but magic always runs out eventually. Game 6 at home was the most important game of my career. Win and force a Game 7. Lose and watch the season end. Watch the dream die. Watch everything we'd fought for slip away. The morning of the game, I woke up with absolute clarity. This was it. This was the moment that would define not just the season, but everything that came after. How I played tonight would determine how I'd be remembered. I called my mom. "I'm scared," I admitted. "Good. That means it matters. What if I fail? Then you fail with dignity. But baby, you're not going to fail. You're going to go out there and leave everything on that court, and whatever happens after that, you'll be able to live with." She was right, as always. The arena that night was the loudest I'd ever heard it. 20,000 people screaming themselves hoarse before the game even started. They believed. After everything we'd been through, they still believed. And that belief was contagious. From the opening tip, we were the better team. Sharper, faster, more connected. We played defense like our lives depended on it. We shared the ball. We trusted each other. Everything we'd learned all season came together in one beautiful, flowing performance. By halftime, we were up by 18. Their coach made adjustments, and they came out fighting in the third quarter. They cut the lead to 8, and I could feel the crowd getting nervous. But I'd been here before. I knew how to handle pressure now. I hit 3 straight shots, and we pushed the lead back to 15. The fourth quarter was a celebration. We won by 22, and when the final buzzer sounded, the place exploded. We'd forced Game 7. We'd extended the dream one more game. In the locker room, champagne flowing, guys dancing and singing, I found a quiet corner and called Rachel. "One more game," I said. "One more game," she repeated. "I'm so proud of you. I love you. I love you too. Now go celebrate with your brothers. You've earned it." Game 7 was played in their building, but it felt like a neutral site. The basketball world was watching, captivated by the story of the 8th seed that refused to die. Media from around the world descended on the arena. Celebrities filled the courtside seats. This wasn't just a game, it was an event. The morning of Game 7, I didn't feel nervous. I felt grateful. Grateful for the journey, for the lessons, for the people who'd believed in me when I stopped believing in myself. Whatever happened tonight, I'd already experienced something most players never get to. A season that meant something beyond wins and losses. In the locker room before the game, Coach didn't give a motivational speech. He just said, "You've already proven everything you needed to prove. Now go have fun." Fun. That's what it was supposed to be. Why had I forgotten that? The game started, and both teams were tight. The moment was too big, the pressure too intense. Shots that normally fell were clanging off rims. Passes were just a bit off. It was ugly basketball, but it was honest basketball. At halftime, the score was tied at 42. In the locker room, guys were frustrated, pressing, trying too hard to be perfect. I looked around at these men I'd gone to war with and realized we needed to remember why we started playing this game. "Hey," I said, standing up. "Remember when we were kids and basketball was just about going outside and playing? No pressure, no expectations, just joy. That's what we need right now. Not perfection, just joy." Something shifted in the room. The tension released. Guys started smiling, joking, breathing again. The third quarter was when we found our rhythm. We started playing loose, making the extra pass, celebrating each other's success. And slowly we pulled away. By the end of the quarter, we were up by 7. Their coach called timeout, and I could see him yelling at his team, demanding more intensity, more effort, more perfection. And I realized that's where we'd been at the start of the season, trying to force things instead of letting them flow. The fourth quarter was beautiful basketball. Both teams playing at the highest level, trading baskets, neither willing to give in. With 3 minutes left, we were up by 3. They came down and hit a 3 to tie it. I brought the ball up, called for a screen, and rose up from 26 feet. The shot was pure. We were up by 3 again. They answered with a layup. Up by 1. We worked the shot clock down, and I found the rookie open in the corner. He'd been quiet all game, pressing, trying too hard. But when I passed him the ball, I looked him in the eye and nodded. Trust. He rose up and drained the 3. Up by 4 with 90 seconds left. Their star hit a tough 2. Up by 2. We ran clock and they fouled me with 38 seconds left. I went to the line and the building was silent. Everyone knew these free throws could decide the game. First shot, good. Second shot, good. Up by 4 with 38 seconds left. They pushed the ball up court, their star driving to the basket. He scored, and we were up by 2 with 24 seconds left. Coach called timeout. In the huddle, he drew up a play designed to run clock and get a good shot. But then he looked at me and said, "Or just don't turn it over." I won't. We inbounded the ball, and they immediately fouled me. 12 seconds left, up by 2. 2 free throws to ice the game. I walked to the line, took a deep breath, and let everything fall away. The crowd, the pressure, the magnitude. It was just me and the basket, the way it had been 10,000 times before. First shot, good. Second shot, good. Up by 4 with 12 seconds left. They hit a meaningless 3 at the buzzer, and when the final horn sounded, we'd won. We were going to the finals. The celebration was pure chaos. Confetti falling, guys tackling each other, grown men crying like children. We'd done the impossible. The 8th seed, the team that wasn't supposed to be here, the squad that had been written off and counted out, we were 4 wins away from a championship. In the handshake line, their coach pulled me aside. "You reminded me why I love this game," he said. "Go win it all." The finals were against a team from the West that had dominated all season. 67 wins, MVP, best record in basketball. They were heavily favored, and everyone expected them to win in 5 games, maybe 6 if we got lucky. But we'd heard that before. Game 1 was at their place, and we shocked the world by winning in overtime. I played 48 minutes, scored 38 points, and left everything on the court. After the game, I could barely walk to the locker room, my body completely spent. "How you feeling?" Marcus asked. "Like I got hit by a truck." "Good. That means you left it all out there." Game 2, they adjusted and beat us by 11. The series was tied going back to our building. Games 3 and 4 at home were wars. We won Game 3 by 2 in a game that went down to the final possession. Game 4, they won by 6 in a game where their stars were unstoppable. Series tied at 2 games apiece. Game 5 back at their place was the most important game of my life. Win, and we'd be 1 game away from a championship. Lose, and we'd be fighting for survival again. The game was tight throughout. Neither team could pull away. With 2 minutes left, we were down by 1. I hit a 3 to put us up by 2. They answered with a layup to tie it. Marcus hit a mid-range jumper. Up by 2 with 43 seconds left. Their star drove to the basket and scored, tying the game with 28 seconds left. We called timeout. Coach drew up a play, but everyone knew where the ball was going. This was my moment, my season, my story. We inbounded with 18 seconds. I took the ball at the top of the key, their best defender on me, 20,000 people screaming. I looked at the clock, let it tick down to 8 seconds. Then I made my move, crossover, step back, rise up. The shot felt perfect leaving my hand. The rotation was pure. The arc was beautiful. And as it went through the net, giving us a 2-point lead with 5 seconds left, I felt something I'd never felt before. Completion. Like every struggle, every sacrifice, every moment of doubt had led to this single perfect shot. They called timeout with 5 seconds, drew up one last play. Their star caught the ball in rhythm, rose up for a game-tying jumper. The shot hit the rim and bounced off. We won. We were 1 game away from a championship. The flight home was surreal. Guys couldn't believe what was happening. We were the 8th seed. We weren't supposed to be here. But we were. And we were 1 win away from immortality. Game 6 at home was scheduled for 3 days later. 72 hours to prepare for the biggest game any of us had ever played. I spent those days in a strange state of calm. I'd already proven everything I needed to prove. I'd walked away from money to find myself. I'd chosen integrity over profit. I'd learned that love and loyalty mattered more than fame and fortune. The championship would be incredible, but it wouldn't define me. I'd already defined myself through my choices. The morning of Game 6, Rachel and I took a long walk through the city. We didn't talk much, just held hands and breathed in the moment. "Whatever happens tonight," she said, "I want you to know that I'm proud of who you've become. Not the basketball player, the man. I couldn't have become this man without you. Yes, you could have. I just reminded you who you already were." My mom flew in that morning. When I picked her up from the airport, she looked at me and started crying. "What's wrong?" I asked. "Nothing's wrong, baby. I'm just so happy. You know when you were 8 and you told me you were going to play in the NBA someday? I believed you. But this is more than I ever dreamed for you. We haven't won yet, Mom. You already won, baby. You won when you chose to be a good man over being a rich man. Everything else is just gravy." The arena that night was electric before the doors even opened. Fans lined up for hours wearing our colors, holding signs, believing with every fiber of their being that we could finish this story the right way. In the locker room, I looked around at my teammates. The rookie who'd stepped up when Marcus got hurt. The veterans who'd taught me what professionalism meant. Marcus, my brother, who'd never wavered in his support. Coach Williams, who'd believed in me even when the organization didn't. I don't need to give a speech, I said, standing up. You all know what this means. You all know what we've been through. So I'll just say this. Let's go finish what we started. The game started fast, both teams understanding the magnitude. We were sharp early, jumping out to a 7-point lead in the first quarter. But they were champions for a reason, and they fought back, tying it by halftime. The third quarter was a battle. Every possession felt critical. Neither team could gain an advantage. Going into the fourth quarter, we were up by 1. The final 12 minutes were the longest of my life. Both teams traded baskets, the lead changing hands 5 times. With 3 minutes left, we were tied. I hit a jumper to put us up by 2. They answered with a 3. Down by 1. Marcus hit a layup. Up by 1. Their star hit a pull-up jumper. Down by 1. 2 minutes left. We worked the shot clock and I found the rookie open on the wing. He hit a 3-pointer and the arena exploded. Up by 2. They pushed the ball, their star driving to the rim. He scored and was fouled. He made the free throw. Tied with 94 seconds left. We called timeout. In the huddle, coach looked at me. Your game now, he said simply. We came out of the timeout and I had the ball with the shot clock off. I worked it, letting time tick away, waiting for the right moment. With 35 seconds left, I made my move. I drove to the basket, their entire team collapsing on me. At the last second, I kicked it out to Marcus in the corner, wide open. He rose up, and for a brief moment, time stopped. The entire season, the entire journey, everything came down to this one shot. Swish. We were up by 3 with 29 seconds left. Their coach called timeout. Everyone knew they'd go for a 3 to tie. The question was, could we stop them? They inbounded, and their star brought the ball up. He crossed half court, and I picked him up, denying him space. He tried to get a screen, but we switched perfectly. 15 seconds. 10 seconds. He made his move, creating just enough space to get a shot off. A 3-pointer that would tie the game and send it to overtime. I jumped with everything I had, my hand reaching for the ball. The shot went up, and I felt my fingers graze it, just enough to alter the trajectory. The ball hit the front of the rim and bounced away. 5 seconds left. I grabbed the rebound, and they immediately fouled me. I went to the line for 2 free throws that would seal the championship. The building was so loud I couldn't hear myself think. My legs felt like jelly. My hands were shaking. But I'd been here before. I'd faced pressure before. And I'd learned that the secret to handling pressure was to embrace it, to understand that pressure was just another word for importance, and important moments were what I'd worked my whole life for. First shot, good. 4-point lead, they'd need a miracle. Second shot, good. 5-point lead with 4 seconds left. They took one last desperation 3 that missed, and when the final buzzer sounded, we were champions. I fell to my knees at center court, overwhelmed by every emotion a human can feel. Joy, relief, gratitude, disbelief, all of it washing over me at once. My teammates mobbed me, and we cried together, these men who'd become family, who'd fought through everything to reach this impossible moment. The trophy presentation was a blur. Confetti falling, music blaring, people screaming. I lifted the trophy, and in that moment, I saw my mom and Rachel in the crowd, both crying, both beaming with pride. This was for them, for everyone who'd believed in me when I stopped believing in myself. In the locker room after, champagne spraying everywhere, I found Marcus sitting quietly in a corner, staring at his championship ring. You good? I asked. Yeah, just trying to remember this feeling forever. Me too. You know what's crazy? He said. 3 months ago you were on the bench, fighting the organization, everyone calling you greedy and selfish. And now you're a champion. A champion who walked away from $47 million to find himself. That's a hell of a story. It's not about the story, it's about the truth. What truth? That money can't buy peace. That integrity matters more than wealth. That the people who love you for who you are will always be more valuable than the people who love you for what you have. Marcus stood up and hugged me. Love you, brother. Love you too. The championship parade 2 days later was surreal. Hundreds of thousands of people lining the streets, celebrating not just a basketball team, but a story that had captured the entire city. We'd started as the 8th seed, the underdogs, the team nobody believed in. And we'd won it all by refusing to accept what everyone else accepted as inevitable. Standing on that parade float, looking out at the sea of people, I thought about the journey, about being benched, about the contract clause, about Derek's betrayal, about choosing integrity over money, about finding myself again, about learning what actually mattered. It had all been necessary. Every painful moment, every difficult choice, every test of character. Without that journey, I wouldn't be the man standing here now. I'd still be the player who saw himself as a product, who measured his worth in dollars and endorsements, who didn't understand that real wealth had nothing to do with bank accounts. After the parade, I met with Richard Steele one final time. The team had new ownership now, and they wanted to discuss my future. They wanted to offer me a new contract, lock me up long-term, build the franchise around me. "We made mistakes," the new owner said. "We know that, but we're different. We value you, not just as a player, but as a person. Name your price." I thought about it. Thought about staying, about running it back, about trying to win another championship. Part of me wanted that. But another part, the part that had learned the hardest lessons this year, knew better. "I appreciate the offer," I said, "but I'm not staying." "Why not?" "We'll pay you whatever you want." "It's not about money. It's about peace. I need a fresh start somewhere where I'm not carrying the weight of everything that happened. I need to just play basketball again without all the baggage." They didn't understand, but they didn't need to. I'd learned that not everyone would understand my choices, and that was okay. I didn't need their understanding. I just needed my own. I signed with a different team that offseason, not for the most money, but for the best situation. A place where I could be part of something positive, where the organization treated players like human beings, where basketball could be joyful again. On my last day in the city, Rachel and I packed up the penthouse apartment. It felt strange leaving, ending this chapter, but it also felt right. "Any regrets?" she asked as we loaded the last box into the car. "Not one. Even walking away from the 47 million? Especially that. That choice saved my life. It reminded me who I was. Who are you?" I thought about it. Really thought about it. And for the first time in my life, I had a clear answer. I'm someone who values integrity over wealth, who chooses love over fear, who understands that real success isn't measured in championships or contracts, but in how you treat people and whether you can look at yourself in the mirror. I'm someone who's not perfect, who's made mistakes, but who's learned from them. I'm someone who knows that basketball is just a game, but how you play the game says everything about who you are. She kissed me then, right there in the parking garage, and I felt complete. "I'm proud of you," she said. "I'm proud of me too." We drove out of the city as the sun was setting, the skyline in the rearview mirror, the future wide open ahead of us. I didn't know what came next. More basketball, probably. Maybe a family. Maybe challenges I couldn't imagine yet. But whatever came, I was ready. Because I'd learned the most important lesson anyone can learn, that you define your own worth, that integrity matters more than wealth, and that the truest measure of success is whether you like the person you see in the mirror. I'd walked away from $47 million and found something far more valuable, myself, and that was worth more than any contract could ever be. 3 years later, I retired from basketball. I'd won 2 more championships with my new team, made 3 more All-Star games, and played the game with joy every single day. When I announced my retirement, the press conference was packed. "Do you ever think about what could have been if you'd stayed with your original team?" a reporter asked. "All the time," I admitted, "but not with regret, with gratitude." That situation, as painful as it was, taught me everything I needed to know about what matters. It forced me to choose between money and integrity, between security and peace, and making that choice, walking away from that money, it set me free. "Do you think you made the right decision?" I smiled. "I know I did. Because I can sit here today and tell you that I played the game the right way, treated people the right way, and lived by principles that I'm proud of. And no amount of money could buy that feeling." After basketball, I opened a foundation dedicated to helping young athletes understand that their worth isn't determined by their performance, their contracts, or their fame. I worked with kids who were facing the same pressures I'd faced, who were being told that money was the only measure of success, who needed to hear that integrity and character mattered more than wealth. Rachel and I got married, had 2 kids, built a life that had nothing to do with basketball and everything to do with love, family, and purpose. Marcus remained my best friend. We talked every week, visited often, and our kids grew up together. The bond we'd forged through that championship season never faded. I never spoke to Derek again, but I heard through mutual connections that he'd transformed his approach to representation, that he treated clients like people, not products, that he'd learned from his mistakes. I was happy for him, genuinely. Growth is always possible when you're willing to do the hard work. My mom lived to see me retire, see me get married, see me become a father. She passed peacefully 5 years after my retirement, and her last words to me were, "I'm so proud of who you became." That pride meant more to me than every championship, every all-star selection, every accolade I'd ever earned. On the day of her funeral, I stood at the podium and told the story of being benched, of the contract clause, of walking away from $47 million, of choosing integrity over wealth. My mom taught me that real wealth has nothing to do with bank accounts, I said. It has to do with who you are when nobody's watching, how you treat people when there's no camera, whether you choose the easy path or the right path. And because she taught me that, I was able to make a choice that saved my life. I was able to walk away from money and find myself. That's her legacy. That's what she gave me. Now, years later, sitting in my home office, I look at the championship ring on my shelf and think about that season, about everything I went through, about the person I was before and the person I became after. They tried to bench me to cut costs, and in doing so, they triggered a clause worth more than my entire contract. But the real value wasn't in the $47 million I walked away from. It was in the choice itself. That choice taught me who I was, what I valued, what kind of man I wanted to be. And that knowledge, that self-awareness, that integrity was worth infinitely more than any amount of money could ever be. They tried to break me with betrayal, and instead, they gave me the greatest gift imaginable, the chance to prove to myself what I was made of. And I proved it. Not through the money I earned or the championships I won, but through the choice I made when everything was on the line. I chose myself. I chose integrity. I chose peace. And that choice changed everything.